Coach Landry, we see what's going on at Texas A&M.
Uh-huh.
Can you just give me your overall view as to Jimbo Fisher's just crashing and burning?
Yeah, look, I don't like to overreact on things because, as I said before, things, I mean, we heard that about, the media ran and run with, well, Brian Kelly's losing the locker room at LSU. Never got that feeling. I'm concerned about what's going on at A&M. I'm sure you guys have heard about what the locker room incident is.
Well, and for those that don't, let me lay it out real quick. So you've had two things going on. One, there were 3 players supposedly smoking pot before a game, and then number 2, which is way more significant, is that supposedly I believe 5 players jumped Jimbo Fisher's son at practice, and it was a heck of a scene. So any insight you can give us would be great.
Yeah, I don't know about the second one, but I do know that the first one has happened not once, but I've told more than once. So I don't know. It could be 2. Let's just leave it at 2. 2's too many.
Wow.
And happened after the game in the shower. And I look, I wasn't there. I don't know, but there's obviously something going on. My overall thoughts, Amanda and Dave, are this. You got to be careful when it's all great when you talk about NIL and brag about what we can do financially. And there's nothing wrong in this day and age of NIL and making money. But I can tell you this from 40 years of doing this. If guys are coming to a school or going in the NFL because of the money, and that's their motivation, then what's their motivation when they get the money? So let me just back up and say, it is fine to get the money. It is fine to want to play football and want to be part of a team and want to work, and you love the game of football, and you have every right to get as much money at whatever level you can get that's legal. It's great, but if you're going for the wrong reason, and you're basically guys are entitled, then they're not. They don't. Obviously, they don't respect the program. They don't respect the coach.
Yep.
They're not doing the right things. And again, I always study this a lot when I'm looking at draft prospects. When I'm doing my consulting work for teams, is trying to drill into what makes them work. They're all going to tell you they love football. I need to find out whether they truly do, and their actions speak louder than words. So it is great to get all the money. I mean, the money's going to be there, but I'm going to tell you, it's only going to be there as long as you work. And if the money motivates you in anything, if that's your motivation, then you're going to do as little as possible to get that money because you don't love what you're doing. If you love what you're doing it because you love it, and you have to get paid for it to live, and all. We all understand that. That's what's going on in my view. I think you're getting a lot of guys that are they came for the wrong reasons. And that great recruiting class, I'm going to be curious to see how many of those are even going to be on the roster at the end of this year. How many of them are going to transfer? Because they're not going to want to deal with that. I mean, you have 3 of them there that are young guys. But, I think there's some real problems. I think there's a real danger. And I think it's a big game this weekend because of this reason. We're going to really see how bad it is at A&M, because after what happened on the field and off the field, if they have character in that locker room, the players will take ownership and say, this bleep ain't going to stand. And we're going to see them play well at home against Ole Miss and maybe surprise them. If they've got leadership, if they lay down and they get rolled by Ole Miss, it tells me
it's over.
There is not that leadership in that locker room, and they don't give a bleep. They don't care, and that tells me a lot. Not just whether they win, but just how they play. If they play hard, they play well. That tells me there's some character left there. amongst the players. If they don't and they lay down, I'm telling you, you think it's bad now. Oh no, it's going to be next level bad. And it is, look, when it gets bad, it gets really bad. And here's the other thing that you got to be careful about all the rumors now. And again, some of the stuff is true, but what you're going to have now is a lot of the false rumors because it's the negativity. It's going to be, oh, well, let me tell you what I heard, Amanda and Dave. I heard this. Just a lot of that stuff is not true, but you do a lot of piling on because you're frustrated, with the program, whatever. So a lot of that's going to come from, a lot of their fan base that's trying to figure out, well, did we, pay the $85.9 million? I think you got to be careful with that. But I think it's a dangerous situation. I think it really is. It's alarming, and just goes to show you, though, be careful out there. For those of you, hey, riding high at Tennessee and just everybody, it looks awful. It looks great. And then, I heard for years the Kansas job, there's no way you could win there. I mean, you're not going to win titles there, but you can be competitive. I saw 3 coaches in my lifetime do a pretty good job. Actually, 4. Now you got one doing it again. Don't ever think that the way it is at your place, good or bad, is the way it's going to be, because it can flip in a heartbeat and you could lose the program. And I just think it's a really concerning situation.
No, I agree. And I'll tell you what's concerning from my standpoint, if you're a Texas A&M fan, and you and I see it through different lenses, is when people start leaking some of the reports that we've seen to the media, then there are people within that administration that are floating essentially a balloon out there to say, what if you paid the $90 million buyout? How would fans respond? So when you see that leaking of his son getting jumped or smoking pot before a game or whatever, when you start to see that, that's people in the administration or on the team that are leaking that, and that is a monstrous red flag. I've seen it happen at Tennessee before.
Oh yeah, and I hope that's not true about his son.
I do too.
I'm assuming it's I don't know. I'm assuming it's the one that's got a very serious illness. I can't imagine that being true, but again, I don't know. I mean, that would be awful. Look, it's ugly. The other thing you got to be careful about is how many people are trying to create, how many things that have happened that have been kept under wraps. I'm not talking about off the field problems, but certain infractions. There's somebody with power over there, not in the administration, but booster faction that is aware, that's been involved in this stuff, that are going to try to say, well, I know a way we can get out of paying that money.
Yep.
We can have, fire for cause, which means then you can negotiate, and now it's $40 million that he walks away with instead of 85. You follow me?
Yes.
That type of stuff happens. Let me take you back. Jim McElwain, remember what happened there? Things were going bad over Jim at Florida, and he made the comment. He said, somebody said, Coach, how tough is it? And he made some comment about his family was getting death threats. He was trying to, apparently made it up, and he said, my family's been harassed. Well, there's a law, state law, as a state employee, you have to report that to your superior. Well, he didn't, because it didn't happen. Apparently, he was trying to do something in the media and the press conference to get some sympathy. And basically, they got him. They owed him a lot of money, and they basically got out with about $4 million of buyout, and Jim was gone.
Yeah, same thing for Tennessee fans. Same thing. Well, not the same thing, but a similar thing happened getting out of a buyout with Bruce Pearl, basketball coach, who lied to the SEC.
Right.
So, yeah, I felt like Jim McElwain really jumped the shark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did.
Okay,
He did.
That wasn't really a nude picture.
So, yeah, you wonder if that could happen there. I don't know. It's I don't know. Everybody loves a train wreck, the rubbernecking. There's a lot of rubbernecking going on in Bryan, Texas right now.
There is, and I wonder with Texas A&M, I know that you have some pretty close ties to that program. Now that Texas is will be in the SEC, I thought that there was a period that I never thought I would see, and that was that A&M had kind of maybe overshadowed Texas for a little bit, and it was because of the SEC ties, whereas they've always been kind of a little brother like Auburn to Alabama.
Yep.
And I wonder where they stand now that Texas is joining the SEC. Do they recede back to that little brother syndrome, or are they able to stand toe-to-toe with the other UT?
Well, Texas has got their own issues. It's not so much off the field, but they've got to get a little bit better. But I do see some positives with Sark. But man, he's like he's blown in like 7 leads in his short career he's had there. So they've got some own issues. But the thing about them, it's like any other hate fan base. They care more about what's happening at the other place. They care more about talking bad about the other school than their current school. So I think you just nailed it, though. A&M had something Texas never had for the first time in their life. They were part of the SEC, and Texas wasn't. And so I do think that's look, it's always kind of considered, or at least Texas thinks, we're the University of Texas, and you're Texas A&M. And there's always that big brother, little brother feel to it. And look, where it's going to go, it depends on how well it does on the field. I think the issue that A&M needs to, and Texas needs to get over themselves is that it takes a lot of money, yes, to be successful in big-time football. But money alone doesn't do it. If you've got money and you don't do a good job utilizing that money, you've got a problem. Look, I can tell you that, when they hired Jimbo Fisher, they hired him, Scott Woodard, the athletic director who's now the LSU hired him. But it was Ross Bjork that they would be halfway through Jimbo's contract if they wouldn't have gave him the money. But you know what happened, right? When Ed Orgeron was fired, Scott Woodard's going to come after Jimbo Fisher. We got more money. We're not going to let that happen. And my thing is, at some point you need to say, you know what? You've got a nice contract. We need to see you put up some real big numbers here before we're going to get it. And you know what? If that's not good enough for you and LSU wants to hire you, we'll go and use our resources and get somebody just as good or better. But that's not the way athletic directors think. They get scared. The athletic director's scared that if their guy is taken away somewhere else, then you failed, and that's what's happening now. And the agents know that. And so the Jimmy Sextons and the Trace Armstrongs of the world uses that. Well, LSU's educated. So they give them this big money, and now they're in an $85.9 million, you know what.